What's up, guys? How's everybody? Sunday morning once again. Seems like the week just passes by so quickly, especially when you're busy. Busy. I hope you guys are all doing great today and ready for another Sunday Addicted to Gear edition. If you guys don't already know, I'm Tony. Welcome back for those of you that are regulars here. And for those of you that are new and just joining in, welcome to you guys as well. Addicted to Gear is all about this kind of stuff, as you can see. And the Sunday shows are the shows where we get an opportunity to chit chat for about an hour or so. So welcome to everybody, and I appreciate you guys getting up real early. Dudes, musicians don't usually like to get up at this time of day. And maybe you guys are in different parts of the world where it's a little bit later. And if you are, fantastic. If you're not, well, you guys are brave. So let's say good morning to the boys that are already in the house. We got a great show lined up. Lots of interesting things to talk about. I appreciate the thumbs up, by the way. I just noticed you guys had, there's already like 16 thumbs up and I didn't even get started yet. I appreciate that. That's great. Great. I'm happy that you guys are revved up. So should I say good morning? First of all, before we get started, please subscribe so that you'll be able to chat during this session, especially if you're new. There's a poll question that I put out almost every week, and today there's one as well. I did not put it in the comment section of the show, so I put it in the community section. I think last week some people were getting confused as to where they should be filling out the poll, but there is a poll question. You just have to go to the Addicted to Gear page, go to the community section, and you'll see it there. And we'll talk about that. Let's get started. Today's show 229. So if you guys are new, you missed 228 shows. So it's never too late to join in. That's what I always say. So let's get the comments started. Just to be clear, the Sunday shows are really about you guys. So if you guys have any questions, if you guys have any comments, anything you guys want to talk about in terms of new gear or news or anything like that, this is the place to do it. So please comment away. And if you don't want me to miss your comment, put a little question mark ahead of your question so that I know that it's directed to me. Otherwise, it's an open forum. Everybody has the opportunity to answer the questions. All right? Fantastic. So let's see who's in the house today. SB. SB says, here you go, Tony. Voted and gave detailed answers. So I guess that's an interesting topic for today's stream. So just so you guys know, I was asking in the poll question the topic of whether or not you like to use, generally, you like to use your guitar. If you're looking for a drive tone, are you more likely to use your guitar plugged into an amp directly with no pedals and try and get your drive tone that way? Or are you the type of person that, will go into let's say a clean amp and then use pedals, or a combination of both, because sometimes it's just easier that way? So that's the poll question today, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, as we normally do. And let me just carry on saying good morning to the people that are brave enough to get up so early today. I wish I didn't get so much reflection off of my glasses, but it's just like I have, unfortunately it's reflective. I need to wear contacts or something. Wayne is here. He says hi, friends. Vinny's World is here as well. He says hi all. Time Surfing Alien, good morning. Jack is here as well. Kushman, Vanai, it's me, Don P. Good morning. John here is also here. Sorry. ZD351. Howdy, gang. I'm still up, so I thought I'd catch the show. Glad you did. Stick around if you can. Mark is here as well. Good morning, Mark. Boomerang is here as well. Patrick is here. Davis Music. Grandpa Guitarist. So many people. So Dan, Ian, Mark, MFN, Farid, all right, Steve, Presley, a lot of great familiar names here. Rico as well, Shane is here as well. Nella's got a question, so let's answer Nella's question together. Anyone know where to get quick connectors for pups for a decent price? They seem to be quite expensive on eBay and Reverb. Nella, are you trying to connect Gibson pickups? For those quick connectors, I know that you can get a variety of different ones. It depends on which specific pickups you're trying to connect, because they're not all the same. Unfortunately, I learned that the hard way. For example, you can get some that are not that expensive off of Guitar Fetish. They have some, but those are made specifically for their pickups. So I don't think they're going to work for the Gibson pickups. I may be wrong, never tried. I did, however, at one point try to swap out some Gibson pickups in one of the newer Gibsons, which had the quick connects, which you would think make things easier, but in actual fact, they make things a lot more complicated because they're hard to get, like you said. They're not all the same, and they're expensive sometimes. So I scoured eBay trying to find them, and I did find them on eBay, but they were very expensive because they were being sold by some other seller and not necessarily a distributor. You can check places like Mauser. I don't know if you know Mauser. It's basically a supply house that has all kinds of electronic components and things like that. You may be able to find it there. But I know it's not an easy thing. So if anybody has a better suggestion, my suggestion would be just to forget about the quick connects and just go direct. That would be the easiest and less expensive method. But I understand that sometimes people do want to have the ability to unplug the pickups easily and all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, Nella, you can also go with systems like the ones I reviewed, which would be another way of connecting your pickups easily without necessarily using quick connects. Obsidian has a set. It's basically a drop-in replacement. They make them for Strats. They make them for Les Pauls, where you don't need quick connects. You can just use the wire directly from the pickup and then just plug them in directly. There's a few of them like that, and I reviewed one or two that you can check out in my old videos. And those work well too. That's another option. So I hope that helps. If anybody else has a suggestion, let us know. Jack says he got a new Gator case today from Epiphone for his Epiphone Dot. It fits perfectly. Yeah, those Gator cases are great. I love them. Gator and SKB. SKB, I think that's what it is, not SBK. I always mix them up. Anyways, those two that are made of ABS plastic, those are great. They're a little bit more expensive, but they last forever. As long as you don't leave them next to a, some kind of a radiator where they will warp or melt. They basically are great. They're waterproof, and for me, because I do, bring my gear out in the wintertime when it's wet and cold, and I like to have them well protected, and I usually like those cases much more than the standard ones. Standard ones are cheaper, less expensive, but in my opinion, not as good. Hey Marcel, how are you, my friend? Ça va bien? I hope everything's good. Charles Scott is here as well. Good morning, Charles. How are you doing? Mark says the only new gear I bought recently, I bought a condenser microphone for recording. Which one did you get, Mark? There's so many choices out there when it comes to microphones. It's incredible. And, one mic doesn't do it all, unfortunately. So if you're recording voice, that's, you're going to be aiming for one type of microphone. If you're, trying to mic up a cabinet, it's going to be another series of microphones. If you're trying to record the room or an acoustic guitar or drums, that's another rabbit hole. If you're really into recording and you want to get a really good sound, it is worth investing in good quality microphones. But there's so much choice. You really have to know what you're looking at. And some of them, if you've been looking, Mark, you probably know some of them are extremely expensive as well. But there's good bargains out there. Like guitars and pickups, you don't necessarily have to spend that much these days. You can still get some pretty decent ones for not too much money. Boomerang, how you doing? He says, my Ibanez style guitar neck from eBay, approximately 80 bucks USD, arrived in good order. It's a roasted flame maple non sorry, I can't speak. AANJ with stainless steel jumbo frets. Oof, I got that one out. So that's going into your build, and 80 bucks is really cheap. That's really good. Any issues with it? Anything you would like you find a little iffy? Because I find like 80 bucks is an extremely good deal. And sometimes when you don't pay, too much money, there's, they cut corners somewhere. So, yeah. Let's see here. Charles says, could you recommend a good replacement bridge for a Gretsch Electromatic G5220? Let me think, Charles. What would MacGyver do in a situation like this? Have you checked Tone City? I don't know if they actually make replacement bridges for Gretches. They do make them for a lot of other things. Let me check. I like their bridges, by the way. They really do great stuff. And I'm not talking about here. Let me just man, my internet is extremely slow today. So talk amongst yourselves. Hold on a second. Sorry. So I'm looking on their website right now, and I'm gonna look for their parts. And they have bridges here. I don't know if their search is gonna pull up Gretsch. If you go to Music City, musiccitybridge.com, you'll see there that they have a bunch of options. I'm just trying to see if they have what you're looking for here. Okay, they do have a Gretsch replacement bridge, but I don't know if it's gonna fit yours. It just says Gretsch replacement. It doesn't say the exact model. Let me share that with you. I'll share on the screen, Charles, so you can see that. Give me a second. There we go. Can you see that? I think you can. So this is a Gretsch replacement bridge. Is $111 Canadian. The space bar corrects the problems with the original Gretsch Space Control bridge. So I don't know if that's the same bridge you have, because they don't specify the model. But it does say it fits instruments with a post-to-post distance from 2.9 inches to 3.016 inch. So I guess you would have to go in and measure yours. This is what it looks like. And you tell me if that's something that you think would work for you. But Music City has awesome stuff. I can vouch for that. And if they don't have what you're looking for on their website, just contact them. They might have something that would work and is just not listed on their website yet. Dan says, we were jammed together with our greeting from Tony. And Dan of New Jersey. Good morning, Eddie. SB has a question. SB says, Tony, how happy were you with the TC Polytune pedal? I'm torn between that and a Boss. I know you did a TC review, but just your small 5 cents. Well, SB, I like it. It's still on my board, if that tells you anything. I really do like the TC stuff. They seem very durable. Haven't had issues with them with any of the TC pedals so far, and does a great job. I think if I had to choose another one, another pedal, a tuner pedal, I'd probably maybe would, at this point, it would be between the TC Polytune and perhaps the strobe tuner, like the one I have on my phone, actually, the iStrobo Soft tuner, but that's from Peterson. They make great tuners, and I know they have a mini version of that now, and a few other options there. Those are great too. So Nella says, thanks, that does help. Thinking of soldering connect pigtails on a couple of guitars for quick pickup swaps, experimenting with different pickups, and don't want to solder for each swap. Yeah, I understand. Nella, I've done, I've been trying to find solutions for that myself. The only ones I can really recommend are the ones that have the actual harness that is made so that you don't necessarily even have to solder anything. You just slip in the wire and you're done. The advantage of using that is that you don't put additional strain on the pots and the components from the heat. There's only so many times you can heat and cool a component before it fails, especially pots and stuff like that. So it's the better way to go if you want to use a guitar to experiment with pickups. So if you guys are new here, please give us a thumbs up. We do appreciate that, and it helps the channel. And if you have questions, go ahead and ask away. Eddie says, I have a Polytune and love it. I have a Peterson as well, but I always just go to the Polytune. So there you go. Is that the newer Peterson, Eddie, that you're talking about? Because I know they had older ones. Now there's a few new ones as well that look pretty interesting. I don't want to change my TC electronic tuner yet because it's not broken. Why should I just, it works. There's no need. If ever it fails, I'll look for something else and maybe evaluate something else. But for right now, it's doing the job quite well. Mark says, the condenser mic I got is by Warm Audio, which I thought was a pedal company. Well, they are a pedal company, but they make a lot of other things too. It's called the 512 Skylight Condenser. All right. 512 Skylight. Haven't really heard of that particular mic. And the only reason is because I'm not really into mics. Looks cool. Interesting, yeah. How do you like it so far? I can see here it's about, I think on, if I'm looking at the right one here, it's about 170 bucks or so, depending on where you buy it from. Actually, if you buy it from Long & McQuaid, it's a bit more. It's 250 bucks. That's Canadian. Cool, very cool. So I guess you're going to be doing some recording there. Awesome. It's always great to have the equipment that you need when you're doing that kind of stuff. Jack says the Gator case cost me about $151. Yeah, long gone are the days where you were able to get a case for a guitar for like 90 bucks. Now it's closer to 200. Always buy used, guys, if you can. I snag them up whenever I can because I like to be frugal, and it gets expensive real fast. Mics can be pricey, Mark. Yeah, you can spend thousands on mics if you're really picky. So I've been very slow in producing new content, guys. The reason for that is because I'm in full-blown renovation mode here. I got stuff happening in the room next to me, and it's a mess. The whole space is a mess. I'm trying to keep the damage to a minimum and the dust to a minimum. And so I'm trying to keep, gear out of the way for a while until things are done, because the last thing you want is starting to get dust and stuff in your pickups and in your pots and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really trying hard not to have my stuff out as much as possible till the renovations are over. It's probably going to be another week or so, unfortunately. So be patient with me. I am impatient as well because I have so many things that I want to do. It's just so many things at the same time. By the way, I'm playing this Strat today, and I decided to go into my Princeton, the Princeton reverb that I built from a kit. The reason why it sounds like it has a little hair on it is because it's cranked up to 9. That's the reason I plugged that one in today. I wanted to hear what it sounds like loud. And what you're hearing in terms of reverb is also from the amp. So no pedals. And this goes back to the poll question that I asked earlier on, like, do you prefer to use the amp cranked with no pedals when you try and get a drive sound, or do you prefer to use pedals with a clean amp? So this is a relatively clean amp, generally speaking. If you're like playing and riding the volume here, even though it's on 9, you can hear a little bit of hair on the note. I prefer going through a clean amp because you can have more dynamics, I find, if you're cranking the amplifier like that, you know. If you don't crank an amplifier, you're losing a little bit. And if you see smoke behind me, it's just because my amp caught fire. I'm hoping that it doesn't, because it's like I said, I'm cranking it. Can you see it there? It's right over here behind me. It's hidden away, but it's there. And yeah, just trying to give it a little bit of air. Now, if I take this sound, if I just plug in, I have a Pantheon from Wampler here, which is an overdrive, and I'm just to give it a little bit extra. So that's with the Pantheon on. This is with it off. Not a big difference. It's because I just have it dialed in as a boost. This thing has a lot of drive on tap. If you really want to crank it, you can. But then it kind of loses the nuance of the Princeton. So this is why I kind of keep it dialed in low like that. All right, here. So let's see if there's any more questions. I'm just scrolling down here. And Rexomatic, good morning. He says, good morning from Phoenix. What are your couch guitars? Guitars you can pick up while sitting on the couch watching spirits, I think you meant sports, or other TV. I don't generally have guitars by the couch because first of all, I don't really watch a lot of TV, believe it or not. If I'm watching something, it's probably going to be on YouTube or some other streaming platform. There's nothing great on TV for me. I don't watch sports all that much. I'm very much into like more, educational stuff, how to do stuff, how to DIY stuff. I love watching anything that has to do with that. I love documentaries. I love, science-based stuff and, all kinds of interesting things that generally don't play on TV. So that's why I don't really have a guitar by my sofa couch, because if I did, my wife would probably be very annoyed if I'd be strumming guitar while she's trying to play stuff. So I reserve my guitars for here, but if I do want to have something by my side, it'll generally be an acoustic guitar. but the acoustic can vary. I don't know if you guys do that, if you have them hidden all about the house all over the place. I mean, I do have guitars all over, but when I'm watching TV, I kind of like to watch. MFN says, Tony, I noticed you're thumbing over on the Strat. Do you thumb over most of the time or just on small radius? Most of the time. Yeah, I never really picked up the proper technique, you know, that sort of classical music positioning where you put your thumb directly in the back of your neck. That is really the proper way of doing it. But I thumb over a lot of times, especially when I'm bending. Sometimes I even do like, I just thumb the bottom notes too. Basically whatever feels comfortable. I don't have the best technique, guys, so don't do as I do. Do as I say. It's better. MFN says he sometimes thumbs over on his Telecaster, but rarely on my Les Paul. Is that because the Les Paul has a beefier neck? I do love learning, Dan. I'm the type of guy that's always looking for what's next. So, you know, I rarely like watching shows unless the show's really out there, something freaky that can catch and keep my attention for a long time. But if it's just some boring soap opera or something like that, I'm usually not interested in that. So, otherwise, I'd prefer to watch something where I'm actually learning something. Rexo says, Rico, yes, I bought a nice Princeton reverb and a Godin Fifth Avenue from Dane at Zims. He periodically picks up some of Phil McKnight's gear. That's good. Recycling. That's good, man. Goes to a better home. I had a few things I wanted to talk about, and you know, I'm still going to be answering your questions, so please continue to ask those questions as we go on. However, there was a couple of things that I thought were interesting that came through my feed this week that I wanted to bring up, get your opinion on. So first of all, have any of you heard the full version of the Eddie Van Halen, what they're calling the final song collaboration with his brother Alex? It's been making the rounds on the internet. Now, since his brother Alex is writing his book, or has written his book called Brothers, and he's promoting it right now, he's doing the promotional tour where he's signing books at bookstores and whatnot and meeting fans. You know, it just so happens that they released, or this song was released recently. It doesn't have a title. The title of it is unfinished for now. And apparently it's the last piece of music that they recorded together, which I think is, you know, nice. I really, you know, enjoyed listening to it. Now you can download it. You can, I think you got to go to vanhalen.com if you want to actually listen to it. And of course, they're going to be promoting the book there, which I think costs about $32, something like that, which I might pick up eventually. I'm always curious to hear stories, first-hand stories, and who better to tell those stories than Eddie Van Halen's brother. It's about 380 pages or so, the book. And I think there's also an audio version of that book where you can hear Alex talking. I don't know if it's Alex or somebody else talking, but it's about, the audiobook is about 720 minutes. So it could be something cool to download. You can listen to it on the way to work, stuff like that. So I was curious to ask if you guys heard it, what you guys think, or maybe you're not interested anymore. Rico, I'm not building a studio. I wish I was. Not a studio, no. I'm actually just finishing up an additional bathroom, which I never actually finished. So it's been quite a while. It's been a project that we've had, on the books. We wanted to get it done. We figured we'd do it now. But it's starting to get cold. It's starting to, winter's around the corner. We just want to get things done, get things, everything. You know how it is when you're in construction. Everything's messy. Everything's dusty and not fun. So I'm anxious to get that over with. But I wish it was a studio. It would be really a lot more cool, I think. Anyway, what I can possibly do is make a little window in the wall between this room and that one, and maybe the bathroom can actually double as a control room, and this could be the studio. That'd be cool. See, I didn't think of that. I should have been thinking bigger. Shane says, didn't Alex go out partying while his brother spent 16 hours a day on the guitar? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stories about Van Halen and the brothers and everything else. Who knows what's true and what isn't, right? Hey, Charles, what's happening, dude? Charles is in the house. If you guys don't know Charles, check out his channel. He does guitar modifications, and fabric top guitars are really cool, and he does his live show as well. So feel free to jump in on his channel if you guys don't get enough from mine here. SB has an answer to my question. He says, to answer the question, Tony, first time heard about that book. I'm not a book guy, but I did watch some parts of Dave Grohl's documentary about music studios around the USA. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Dave's documentary was about Muscle Schultz and his studio and how he got the deck that he bought, this vintage deck. I think it was a Neve deck or something that was used in the studios, that recorded a lot of the fantastic hits that we've come to love, and how he ended up getting it and bringing it to his studio, and that's what he's using and all that kind of stuff. That was a really good documentary. That one was really cool. There was another great one that I watched that they were discussing Laurel Canyon and all of the music that came out of Laurel Canyon back in the day. That's another good documentary if you're into music as well. There's a lot of them. Corey says, home studio would be nice, but how far do you let yourself go? It all depends. Today you can do a lot, Corey. The stuff that you can do today with a laptop is mind-blowing. You weren't able to do that back in the day when I was young. In my day, we had to fumble around with cassettes and 4 tracks, and the best we can do was like 8 or 16 if you really had a lot of money, and they were quite limiting. But today, with the software on the computer, with the interfaces that they have, it's incredible what you can do with very little money. Something like an aux box is a great tool for anybody wanting to record at home, where you don't necessarily have to crank the amplifier. You can have it at manageable volumes, which you weren't able to do before. It was very difficult. Editing on computer, man, it's so easy now. A kid could do it compared to what we had to deal with back in the day. You weren't able to edit anything on a reel or a cassette unless you wanted to get into splicing and stuff like that. The best you can do was punch-ins and punch-outs, but if you were out of sync for whatever reason, you were out of luck. Eddie says, I'm waiting for the book. I'm Tony and I'm addicted to gear. Should be a good read. I don't know about that, Eddie. I don't know if I want to tell you all my secrets. You guys might not like me anymore. Ian says, I'm thinking of moving my studio again out of the garage into the living room. It's always better if you're living in a, well, it depends where you are, Ian. I wouldn't be able to have a studio in my garage because it's too darn cold in the wintertime. Plus my guitar's, my garage is a mess. I wouldn't want to have that in there. I gotta like hire somebody to come in and just clean up all my stuff. That would be so great. Go Zen, you know. MFN says, I'm also renovating my office, adding a little nook that looks like a whiskey lounge, but it's for guitaring, not drinking. Okay, a little drinking. Well, you can always do drinking and guitaring. They go hand in hand. I can vouch for that. David says 5 people in one take was tough to do. Well, you were still able, David, to do like individual tracks, but you had to bounce. I don't know if you remember that. Like nowadays, we're getting so spoiled with our computer systems. You can have, it's just a question of memory and hard drive space, but you can have as many tracks as you want practically if you have enough memory. Whereas before, if you were using a cassette, yet you were stuck with 4. So you had to like record 3 tracks, take those 3 tracks, basically mix them together into one track, then take that one and put it on track 4, then do another 2 tracks, put them together, put them on track 3, and then you had 2 left, you know? So you're kind of like, you can mix those 2 down to 1, and then, so by doing some creative mixing or bouncing, you can get more than just 4 tracks. But the challenge with that was like every time you would make a recording or bounce, you would lose quality. And at the end of the day, it wasn't really that great. Also, you know, you were kind of stuck. Like today, you can edit till the last minute. You can mix and edit and tweak and add effects and do all kinds of stuff. Where in those days, it was a hard print, you know. If you wanted delay or you wanted reverb or you wanted something, you had to kind of record it in. You couldn't connect outdoor gear, but it wasn't as easy to do and still quite limiting. Shane says, get that little Japanese chick on Netflix to clean your house, Tony. She's an amazing organizer. You know what? You're going to laugh at me, but I did see her. I did see her on YouTube. I guess she's pretty popular. Maybe you can talk to her. See if she wants to come down. We can maybe do a 2-for-1, you know? We can do a, what's her channel called? I don't even know what her channel is called, Shane, but we could do like an Addicted to Gear / Japanese chick show. That'd be cool. What do you think? Would that fly? Rexomatic says the Tom Petty documentary by Cameron Crowe is really good, especially if you're a Tom Petty, Mike Campbell fan and like lots of cool vintage gear. I had a limited release here in Phoenix. I did see that one too. Yeah, I found that extremely interesting. Like, I'm not a huge Tom Petty fan. I did see Tom Petty in concert before he passed away. Steve Winwood was opening for him, and he did an amazing job. And I don't know how old Steve Winwood is these days, but the guy can still belt them out. What a voice. And you know, he was opening, so people like weren't paying attention to him, but the guy's a legend. He's been around. Steve Winwood's been around for ages, and I don't think he was getting the attention that he deserved when he was opening for him. But you know, I paid attention, and I was like flabbergasted by the fact that the guy he still got the voice after all these years. Amazing. SB says Paul Godin session was in question. Price around $650, $700. Cool guitar, but out of my price range at the time. I needed to buy other stuff also, but it's a cool take on the HSS Strat. I haven't really gotten into Godin, guys. I know it comes up often on the channel, and I'm a little embarrassed because it is a local company and I should be giving it more love. The only guitar that I actually tried, well, actually I tried a couple of them. I haven't owned any, but I've tried the Montreal, which is sort of like a jazz box guitar. because somebody that I know bought one, and I never tried those cool acoustic or semi-acoustic guitars like the one that Steve Stevens plays. Those are cool. And a couple of other ones, and they're good. I mean, they're well-built guitars. There's nothing wrong with the quality. I'm telling you, they're solid. But I don't know why. I'm not necessarily attracted to the Godin guitars yet, but they might come up with another model eventually that might get my attention. Jean-Pierre, how's it going, dude? Jean-Pierre says Winwood is 76 years old. Well, that's young. So he's younger than most. I mean, compared to Keith Richards and everyone else. But he's getting there. Hey, man. Steve Winwood can play a good guitar also. He's amazing on the piano. Great composer, great singer. Yeah, I think he can do it all. It's a shame he didn't become more popular. He did have a little period there where he gained popularity and then sort of faded out again. But I think maybe he doesn't necessarily want to be in the spotlight as much. Speaking of Van Halen, and I don't want this to become a Van Halen show, just wanted to bring this up. You guys do remember the story regarding Van Halen where they asked in their waiver or whatever, when they were signing contracts, that they didn't want to have any brown M&Ms. They wanted to have a bowl of M&Ms waiting for them, but they didn't want to have the brown ones. And people were like, who are these guys? You know, like, well, you know, are they prima donnas? And they're asking for, like, we got to take out the brown M&Ms. But a lot of people don't understand why they did that. You know, it was basically an easy way to see whether or not the other party they were dealing with for the contracts were actually paying attention. And if they came into their dressing rooms and saw brown M&Ms in their bowl, it means they didn't necessarily read all of the details in the waiver. Not the waiver, the rider is what I'm talking about. And so then they know that maybe they're not professional. So it was an easy way. It was kind of like they trick fucked the system a little bit to be able to see whether or not people are paying attention. David, I believe they were the brown ones, not the green ones. Maybe they were green, I don't know. But one of those colors. Eddie says it's always 5150 time. I agree. I'm a big Van Halen fan, even after all these years. Even after, you know, Eddie's gone and all that kind of stuff. I miss him. There's so many juicy stories. That's why the book is enticing, I think, because there's so many things going on, so many dynamics within that band. That was a dysfunctional band, so it's amazing that they came out with such great music. I'm happy they did. But then again, most bands are dysfunctional in one way or another. So Shane says few people knew that just before they signed their record deal, there was a push to replace Roth with Hager right from the get-go. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of stories. But then again, I've read articles saying where Alex was saying that he considered David Lee Roth's exit from Van Halen the most disappointing thing that he'd experienced in his life. So, you know, what's the real story? He says, and I quote, and I'm reading the article, he says, as for what happened that led to Roth leaving Van Halen, Alex said, I don't know where things went wrong. Really? He doesn't know where things went wrong. I have nothing but the utmost respect for Dave and his work ethic. I just think some of his choices were really strange to me, but that's not my job to figure out. Anyways, it's funny that the book, I think Alex's book stops at the point where David leaves. I think he just goes up to that point, and then so all the other stuff that happened after the fact might not be in the book. So Paul's suggestion of the week, he says he paid $280 US in near mint condition. It's a clone of the late 50s Magnatone MK2. So Paul, I missed the first part of that. What was the actual pedal that you're referring to there, Paul? If you don't mind repeating. Guys, the thing that caught my attention this week that I thought was really cool and I think is going to make a lot of waves is the fact that we're finally going to get a Epiphone that has the Gibson headstock. And I mean the exact Gibson headstock. Have you seen this, guys? Now, I swear Gibson, the marketing people over at Gibson are working overtime. They should definitely get a raise because they're finding every trick in the book to kind of get people to spend more money. And it's like it's basically the Epiphone and Gibson have a custom. And basically they collaborated on one of the Les Paul customs. You know, the black one that everybody loves. That is uber expensive. Well, now you can get one, but it says Epiphone on the headstock, not Gibson. And it's going to be, it won't be cheap, but I think it's going to sell. I think there's going to be a lot of people lining up to get these things. So have you guys seen this? I hope you have. I'm going to actually, let me just... Hold on. Let me just see if I can find this. And so these are the inspired by Gibson models, right? Let me just put this on the screen here. Hold on. There we go. Can you guys see this? So this is the guitar that caught my attention this week. This is the Epiphone, and I guess it's inspired by Gibson. Are they still calling it inspired by Gibson now? But anyways, look at the headstock. You're getting a Gibson headstock now. So this is it. They're going to be tempting you. They're making the bait a little bit more juicy because now you're going to be tempted to buy that guitar because it's accurate. And so everybody who bought the other inspired by Gibson Epiphones with the close enough headstock now are going to say, damn it, I should have waited. I could have got this one, you know. I think that it will make a big difference to a lot of people, and myself included. I like them. But what I don't like is the fact that we're going to have to pay more for these things. And this is a really crazy strategy that is going to work. I don't know what the price is. I'm going to look that up for you guys next. There's a MSRP price, I believe. Maybe not. Did they already put the MSRP on their website? Not yet, I think. Yeah, not yet. So now I don't know if they're going to come out with a whole line of these. But I have a feeling that now you're going to be paying close to $2,000 for one of these. So do you guys agree with this? I mean, would you be willing to shell out that kind of money? David, I don't think it's $799. I wish it was. I don't think it is. I think you're looking at the other one. I think you're looking at the inspired by with the close enough headstock. Let me see if I can find this one here for you guys. Let me see here. So Epiphone custom Les Paul. It must be out already somewhere. Here we go. Oh, that's not the right one. That's the previous one. Nope, not it. It might not have hit stores yet. Trying to find it, guys. There's plenty of the other ones, the ones with the close enough headstock that are about $1,000. This one I have a feeling is going to be more. It's going to be closer to 2,000 for sure. Just haven't seen it yet. Can't find it, guys. Maybe one of you can help me find it. Can't find it. Maybe it's not listed yet, but I'm telling you it's going to be close to 2,000 bucks. So Charles says, Steve from Boston has a new guitar of the week and has just shown the Epiphone Custom Les Paul. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of people now reviewing those things. It's basically still an Epiphone, but it's a higher end Epiphone. I think they've done certain things to make it even more enticing. Like I think the inlays are actually mother of pearl on that one. Let me go back to it. Look at the details here. Hardware. So here you do have the gold finish. You are going to get the Grover Rotomatics. You do have the 2-ply bell truss rod and everything else. The bridge is a Tunomatic. Let's see here. Are they talking about? They're not really talking about. Let's see what they say on the neck here. So it's got a modern medium C neck, jumbo frets, mother of pearl block inlays. So on the other ones, you get plastic. So these ones are mother of pearl, which are good. One-piece mahogany neck, Graphtec. You're getting a Graphtec nut on those. And the fingerboard is ebony, whereas on the other ones, it's not. So you are going to be paying more for this guitar, guaranteed, but you are getting higher end guitar. Now the question is, do you put in that extra $1,000 and get one of these, or do you wait, save your money and get a real Les Paul? Again, the difference between the two is sort of shrinking, right? So interesting. Apparently, Nella, it's ebony. It's not laurel, apparently. So yeah, I don't know. I think, used, I would grab one. For sure, I'd grab one. I think they are going to be better than the previous inspired by versions that are like close but no cigar. But Gibson is constantly pissing people off because people are spending money. This is the old bait and switch that they've been doing for years with all of the R issued guitars. Like they had the R, the R1, the R2. I think they're up to R9 now or something like that, right? Where every time they release one of these guitars, they're like, this is the closest that you're going to be able to get, and it's always a lie. Because then a year or two later, they release another one like this is the one that's the closest. So you're kind of always smacking your head against the table because then now you're stuck with it because nobody's going to want to buy yours because they're going to buy the newer one, right? Anyways, Boomerang says Tony should approach Vola and see if they could send you a keeper for review. Yeah, maybe. I might see if I can get other stuff to review. David says solid mahogany body with maple cap, Gibson style open book headstock, Gibson USA 490R and 498T pickups, black hardshell case with inspired by Gibson custom logo and a goldenrod interior. I mean, it sounds sexy. if I wanted, if it was $1,200 here in Canada, I would, consider getting it $1,300. But for us, it's going to be closer to $2,000, which for an Epiphone, just a little bit too much. I don't know how long it's going to take before we start seeing those used, but I have a feeling that they will eventually pop up. You just have to be patient. But it's going to be enticing. Eddie says, I'd buy a used Gibson before I'd buy that particular Epiphone. It's probably a better, let's say, it's a better way of handling it, Eddie, if you're thinking financially, like long-term return on investment or guaranteed, let's say, like you're not going to be losing that much money. Gibsons tend not to lose that much money. Epiphones, you're kind of losing a little bit more right off the bat. It's just what it is, The Gibson name does have some weight, and a lot of people won't buy it unless it says Gibson on the headstock. So, if you want to look at it from a financial perspective, then yeah, I'd say wait and get a Gibson. The thing is, you're not really going to get a Gibson for that price, so you still have to be putting in more money. SB said, I would buy a Schecter C1 Hellraiser for that price and put passives in it and sell EMGs from it. So yeah, for $1,300 Schecter C1 Hellraiser, no brainer. Yeah, that's an option. Again, it all depends on what your intentions are. Long-term, short-term, keeping the guitar, selling the guitar eventually. Charles says, at that price, I think I'll always be in the back of your mind. It's not the Gibson you really want. That could drive you bananas. That can drive you nuts. I know some people, I always say at the end of the day, don't look at the headstock. Just, do you enjoy the guitar? But when you're buying a guitar that is so close to being a Gibson, right? It's just the name on the headstock at that point, almost. Then it's going to kind of, I think it's going to be at the back of your mind even more, because you're like, man, it's so close. The reason why you're buying that Epiphone in the first place is because you really want a Gibson. And they know it at Gibson. This is just a way of like, it's almost like the pusher giving you just a little bit more till you're like, okay, give me the good stuff, So yeah, they're good. They're really good. Dan says, would anyone buy a Toyota labeled inspired by Lexus with a minimal difference in purchase price? Too many head games, Gibson. I agree. But again, they work. This is what they're good at. It's all about head games, because at the end of the day, they've been selling the same guitars for decades. So, they have to shake it up somehow. And this is how they're doing it. They're actually going to make the Epiphone line seem more expensive, and it's going to become, let's say, the norm for most people to pay $2,000 for an Epiphone. That's what they're aiming for. They're just figuring out a way to minimize the gap between Gibson and Epiphone, so that, people are going to say, what's the difference? It's just the name. I'm basically getting a Gibson. You can look at it that way too, right? They're good. I got to say it. They're good. Mind games. Indeed. Speaking of mind games, they haven't finished there. That was one of the things that I want to talk about regarding Gibson, but there was something else that caught my attention. Where is it now? Let me just find it here. Here we go. So Gibson did one better. They released the Gibson Signature SG200 models. Now, for those of you that haven't been looking at what's going on, Basically, there's 2 limited edition models that are based on the Gibson acoustic that Jimmy Page played on his classic tunes from Led Zeppelin. So here we go again. They're just enticing you now with these new guitars. And so they've been pumping out these videos here and there, so you're going to see them. And what they're basically doing is they've re-released some acoustic guitars that Jimmy Page loves to play. And so now you can buy these guitars for yourself, and you can see these videos, on YouTube. They're using the Jimmy Page name to sell you some new stuff and make you believe that it's sprinkled in fairy dust, and somehow you're getting a piece of Jimmy Page, which basically you're not, but they're trying, right? And so these models now are priced at, I think it's $13,000 and $20,000. So you're getting, I believe it's $12,300 for the 64 SG200 and $20,000 for the 1964 SG200 Collector's Edition. So it all depends what you want to spend, but you have a choice there. And I don't know. I mean, once again, I love Jimmy Page. I love him. But at the end of the day, I'm not falling for it. You know what I mean? That's a lot of money for a guitar. And at the end of the day, like, you're not really getting anything from Jimmy Page. Come on, let's be honest here. And it's just a reproduction. But they're figuring out ways to entice people to drop that kind of money. If you got it, go ahead and spend it. But I mean, I wouldn't. Even if I had it, I probably wouldn't. Prices are nuts. And of course, they're using the old limited edition. In other words, you can't buy this crap forever, so hurry up and spend your money till we release the next one. So there you have it. Again, this is why I say the people over at Gibson's marketing department, thumbs up to you guys. You're figuring out lots of ways to get people to part with their hard-earned money for a pretty run-of-the-mill guitar, if you ask me. But hey, who am I to say don't spend your money? MFN says, in spite of the pricing games, I appreciate Gibson, Fender, PRS giving us a bunch of stuff to talk about. At the end, we make the choices whether to buy. The used market is there. The used market is there. And again, you know, I'm all for buying the best guitar you can afford, or the guitar that's going to make you the happiest. If you're going to spend all that money on one guitar, heck, you know, a lot of us spend a lot of money on so-so guitars. If you add up all that money, you can buy a heck of a really nice guitar if you spend all that money on one guitar. So at the end of the day, what's the best option? You know, having a bunch of average guitars or one really good guitar, if that makes you happy. Eddie says, I'd really like to have a Jimmy Page Les Paul #1, but I'm not paying crazy money for it. But even at that, Eddie, you know, I'm a big Jimmy Page fan, and I'm not really enticed by that guitar. I've seen a lot of used ones floating around. They're still expensive, but why would I want to spend that kind of money on a guitar that has nothing to do with Jimmy Page? I mean, it's the specs. Yeah, okay, maybe the neck is thinner, whatever. You know, maybe there's a couple of little things on it that make it look like his guitar, but it's not his guitar. So why would I want to spend that kind of money on it? You know, I'd rather just buy a really good guitar that I like, you know, and maybe even save some money down the line, you know, or build your own, like Boomerang says. You know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to bring it up because that's one of the things that I've seen. And look, at the end of the day, there's another article that I've seen also, again, Jimmy Page, and the article is talking about the instruments and the equipment, I guess, that Jimmy Page considers to be the best in his collection. So that caught my attention a little bit more than the Gibson stuff. I don't know if it came out at the same time by coincidence. And I don't know if they're talking about that particular acoustic guitar in the ad. They might have. It's not put out by Gibson, so, but we never know, right? We are being manipulated, folks, that's for sure. So you got to ask a lot of questions when you read stuff today. But basically, this article says that Jimmy Page, during his time, used a variety of different things. You know, combo amplifiers, heads, including his Marshall Plexi, the 1959 SLP, his modified 2-channel 1959 Supro Coronado, the 6090T combo, and a bunch of other stuff, right? So the article continues to say that some of the instruments that he considers to be the best, that stand apart for him, is his 1969 Marshall JMP Super Bass 100, which was his principal amp during the late 60s, that is. And it was modified by an amp tech named Tony Frank. And in the eyes of Jimmy Page, this amp, it was really hot, a really hot wired Marshall. And that's the main one that he would play all the way through his career. So that was, definitely the Marshall tone, definitely was a big, big influence on the style and the sounds that we were hearing coming out from Jimmy Page in a live scenario most of the time anyway. But, he goes on to talk about other things as well. He talks about his number one 1959 Les Paul, which we all know about, and other things as well. So that's an interesting read for me. I love to hear what people used, why they used it, and I love the Jimmy Page sound. To me, that is the sound. Jimmy Page, and it basically boils down to a couple of people. Jimmy Page, for sure, big influence on sound. Angus Young, big influence on sound, just that raw, driven sound coming from his Marshalls and SG. Billy Gibbons, for me, the early ZZ Top stuff, not the older stuff as much, but the early stuff, again, mostly just an overdriven, loud amplifier, sounded fantastic. And there's a handful of others, but those are the main ones for me. Jimmy Page definitely was a sloppy player, Ian. That's part of his style. He's hard to mimic because of it, because he's kind of like, he plays his own way and he rarely will play something the same way twice. He's kind of like jamming on it, if you think about it. It's not necessarily a carbon copy of what you're going to hear on any of the albums when you hear him play live. They're just basically playing and sort of improvising on the spot. That's what makes it really cool. But he is sloppy, which kind of makes me feel better because I'm sloppy too. Nella says, I bought it for my daughter years ago. She never learned to play. I want to sell it and give her the money. So Nella, I'm not sure. Oh, the Hello Kitty. We're talking about the the Hello Kitty. You can always paint it, dude. Just paint it. Take it, paint it, make it a custom job. That will probably mean more to your daughter than just the Hello Kitty version of it, because you put your heart and soul into it. Eddie says, well, gentlemen, I did try to build my own. I sanded down the neck of a Les Paul and effed it all up because I'm a moron. What do you mean, Eddie? What did you do? What do you mean? You sanded down the neck of a Les Paul and you messed it all up? That could be refinished. It's not necessarily ruined, depending on how badly you sanded it. Shane says, rather have the Jimmy Page Telecaster. I like both. I like both. Yeah. Didn't they also sell, am I mistaken here? Didn't they also sell Rory Gallagher's guitar recently and raised like over $1 million or something? Yeah, here it is. So Rory Gallagher's Strat sells for $1.16 million before being donated to the National Museum of Ireland. Well, the good news is at least it's in a museum, not in some, big cheese's office or something that doesn't even play guitar. But 1.16 million, that's crazy. So it says that the iconic 6-string was purchased by Live Nation's Gaiety with the intent of keeping the guitar in Ireland. So if any of you don't know what the guitar looks like, it looks like, it pretty much, if you picture Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar, it kind of looks like that, except it doesn't have a black pickguard, it has a cream pickguard on it. Same beat up kind of Strat. And, it's instantly recognizable for sure. Everybody knows what they're looking at when they see that guitar. And it's in the Museum of Ireland. So if you're ever in Ireland and you want to take a look at the guitar firsthand, you can. The guitar was purchased in 1963. One of the first guitars to arrive in Ireland, and has been in the care of Gallagher's brother and former manager since his death in 1995. So that's really great. Now, unfortunately, the reason why the guitar was auctioned off in the first place was because the person taking care of the guitar, who is Rory Gallagher's brother and former manager, unfortunately was undergoing treatment for cancer. So I guess he had bills to pay or whatever, and he decided to auction it off. But I'm glad he ended up selling it to a museum. He says, I couldn't help thinking what happens after my demise. He recently told Guitarist magazine, and I suppose being hospitalized myself brought that into sharper focus. The guitar has got a life of its own, and it's got to move on. So this is something pretty much heartbreaking. Like, I imagine that's your brother's guitar, and you're holding on to this guitar, but unfortunately you got to make a hard decision here. That's a heart-wrenching thing to have to do. But, I think he made the right decision. I think he ended up, giving it to a museum, which will be, it'll be safe, and a lot of other people will continue to enjoy it. Pretty nuts how things in life turn out, don't you think? Pretty nuts. All right. Well, let me see here. Should we talk about the poll question? Or should we talk about U2 single that shot straight up to the top 10 recently? Is anybody here still listening to U2? I used to be a big U2 fan back in the day. Not so much now, unfortunately, because I do feel like they've been going through the motions for a long time. But they did release a new song called Happiness. And ironically, it's on the album How to Reassemble an Atomic Bomb. Which is kind of a play on the previous one, which was the opposite. And apparently it's top 10 already. So interesting to see that they still have the magic it takes to get the music up there. And they're not obsolete yet, even though Bono has that really terrible dye job. He should just get rid of that dye job and make his hair naturally turn gray. I mean, we all know it's not real. He's doing the fake stuff, I think. So let's do the poll question, guys. Paul says, Tony, at 77, I don't worry about resell. I won't be the one selling it. Come on, Paul. I think you'll be around for many, many more years. You'll be enjoying that. Hopefully I'll be enjoying and you'll be enjoying the gear even when we're in an old folks' home somewhere. You know, as long as they leave me at least one guitar. All right, let's do the poll. Let's do the poll question, guys. Who's here? Who is still here with me? All right, there's still quite a few people. All right, let's do it. Let's do the poll question. So, if you didn't already answer, well, you might have a couple seconds to do that. Let me jump to the poll here. And let's see. So 120 votes. When dialing in your preferred distorted or overdriven rock sound, do you prefer to A, get the drive tones right from a dirty amp, no pedals? B, prefer to use the drive pedals through a clean amp? Or C, I use a dirty amp and add pedals as needed? So the most popular of the answers is B, that most people, 48% of you, prefer to use drive pedals through a clean amp. I fall in that category, and I'll explain why. 33% of you chose C, I use a dirty amp and add pedals as needed. And then only 20% of you said get the drive tones right from the dirty amp, no pedals. So it's interesting to see that because I have my own theory on all of that, but I wanted to just look at some of the comments and see what people said here. So somebody said, I use a dirty amp and add pedals as needed for certain types of distorted sounds. You just need that extra boost and slight bass cut to tighten things up, particularly for lower tunings. So that's like a 7+ string work. This applies even to full digital space, i.e. pedals, patches in front of a modeled amp as needed. And then somebody else here says, my taste did change over the years. I was 2-channel amp guy, and now I'm give me the clean channel plus overdrive in the pedal type of guy. So my taste changed as I grew older. I'm literally too old to drag big amps now, so I just want small, clean combos, which makes sense. Marcel says Spark 2 amp or Fender GTX Mustang 100, no pedals required. And our own Paul here says, I go from pedals to clean amp. That said, my amp is set just shy of breakup, so my clean is really a low gain sound. Sort of the sweet spot there, Paul. I like that. And Farid said, I prefer a dirty amp for my rhythm and use a boost pedal with added gain for soloing. And our own Shane here says, both my amp and multi-effects have distortion, but I love the sound I get with my Boss metalcore pedal. So much better than a metal zone. So a lot of you had slightly different opinions on how to get the best sound. But basically, I'm just looking at your comments here. Ian says, I have a deluxe reverb with pedals. And Silver Bushman said, clean plus my own picking. Boomerang, clean for switching channels. Silver Bushman says, I make it sound if it can. And Dan of New Jersey says, near breakup, then pedal for Marshall. Yeah. D-Max says, I used to get drive from the amp, now mostly use drive pedals with cleaner amp settings. But with my UAFX Lion, I put a Klon in front to tighten and sharpen it up. Yeah, and I think my opinion on all of that, and David says, I like my clean to be really clean and my dirty to be toxic. Maybe that's why I like multi-effects pedals. Yeah, that's definitely something to consider. you know, how clean and how dirty do you want to get? Because you can't really, it's really difficult to get that much of a wide range, starting from a clean platform all the way to mega dirty, unless you have a multi-effects unit that you can, or a modeler that you can do. That's, today we're spoiled because we do have all of that. I like to start off with a clean platform because I always feel like you can't really, like if you want to get dirt out of an amplifier with no pedals, there has to be, the circuit has to support that. Most of the time when you're dealing with an amplifier that does give you enough dirt, it never gets totally clean. So if you want to go from sparkly clean to dirt, I don't think there's really an amplifier that can do it all, because if there was, everybody would own that amplifier. So you really have to make some decisions on where you want to compromise. But I always feel like it's easier to clean up an amp once you have a clean platform than try and get an amplifier to clean up when it's not designed to be a clean amplifier. Case in point, I was looking at the Orange Rocker Verb. I think, was it the Rocker or the Rocker Verb? I think it was the Orange Rocker 15, which is a small amp. It goes from 5 watts to 15, which is an orange amp, which has a really nice drive sound, but it has no headroom and it doesn't clean up all that well. So if you're trying to use one amplifier for everything, let's say you're playing a cover band and you need to go between a wide variety of amplifiers, that amp is not going to cut it. It's got a great drive sound, but you're never going to get the cleans that you need. So, you know, beyond carrying a couple of amplifiers and switching between them, which nobody wants to do anymore, you're kind of probably better off going with a clean platform and then adding dirt pedals. My opinion. Eddie says, I used a clean channel once to play Roxanne. And that's it. Well, I mean, look, if you're not playing the clean and you don't need a clean amplifier, then there's your answer right there. Just, you know, do it for what you need. If you're not playing that style of music, there's no point in getting a clean amp. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. I've been talking for almost an hour and a half. I intended to be around for just an hour today, but we went a little bit longer. I do appreciate you guys dropping by, especially all the new names. I really appreciate it. I like the fact that you guys are starting to tune in. If you want to participate, we'll be back next Sunday as well. Same time, same place. You know the drill. And there'll probably be a new poll question out as well. Hopefully by next week, guys, I'll be done with the renovations and hopefully back to my usual schedule in terms of trickling out additional videos on my channel. If you want to see something specific and you want me to review something specifically, let me know. I'm always open to those type of suggestions, and if I could accommodate, I definitely will. All right, guys? So please give me a thumbs up on the way out if you haven't already done so. Make sure you bookmark my page and subscribe to the channel, because there'll be more great stuff coming your way right here on Addicted to Gear. I hope you had a good time. I had a fantastic Sunday and looking forward to next Sunday. Take care, guys. Go out and enjoy your gear. I'll be back.